Let's talk about psychic marketplaces and if it's something that you should sign up for. And even if you're not looking to sign up and maybe you just want to get a reading from somebody on a psychic marketplace, this is still going to be a good video for you to kind of look out for some red flags. So welcome if you are new. My name is Lauren. I'm a psychic development coach. I like to teach people how to develop their psychic abilities, and so I kind of teach people on the spectrum of either beginners or more advanced readers. And part of the question that I get pretty often is, should people sign up to work at some of these psychic marketplaces? So first off, what a psychic marketplace is usually it's an umbrella company. It's a company and they employ many different types of psychics. It's not just like one, and they're kind of like psychic call centers, and you essentially like will call in as a client. They have video calls, sometimes phone calls, and usually they like charge by the minute. And you can kind of like get a psychic right away, like look at a ton of profiles and have a chat with them like right then and there. And these forums are like big employers for psychics. Like I find that like a lot of people will jump onto these websites when they're first learning, and there's some red flags that they maybe wish they would have known sooner, or maybe they absolutely love it. And I think there's both pros and cons to these, and I'm going to get into them one by one. And just a disclaimer, I am talking about them all. I'm not singling out anyone in particular. There's tons of websites out there, and I'll kind of get into my personal experience. Let's start with the pros though. The pros of jumping into these psychic marketplaces is that they can be great experience, because you are getting exposed to a lot of people, a lot of clients. You're getting to read a lot of people than if you're just kind of starting from scratch and you're trying to develop a brand and you just don't have anybody that knows about you, and you're kind of competing against a bunch of other psychics. Like a lot of it is like free marketing for you. And the beautiful thing about free marketing with these people too is that like when you type in like searching for a psychic just on Google, they pay to have a good SEO, search engine optimization. They are really good at ranking really high. So when someone is looking for a psychic, they're one of the first ones to pull up. They're always sponsored. They always put ads behind it. So it's really easy to see like the top couple results are always going to be these marketplaces. So that being said, they're marketing for you. You're not having to use your own money or your own time or energy to basically try to get your name out there. So in that sense, the sheer volume of readings you get is also great for practice. And I think that's so important when you're first starting out, is you need a lot of practice. And when I first started, which was about 10 years ago now, like, Etsy was around, but maybe there were psychics on it, but essentially I was like selling readings for like $5-10 on Fiverr at the time. I don't even know if Fiverr's around anymore, but with each of those readings that I did for a minimal amount of money, I was gaining knowledge. I was gaining practice. I was realizing, wow, okay, I need to do that differently next time, or I have a block here and I really need to figure that out, or actually I don't really like doing this type of readings. I need to like put a disclaimer around it. So I think it's so important for practice at the beginning, especially if you don't have like a group available to you to practice reading other people, or again, if you don't have the client base to start with. I think that's like my number one reason I think these are great. Lots and lots of good practice when you're first starting. It can also be a good source of income. Now, this is variable because I'm sure there's some people that make tons of money and there's some people that make no money at all. I would argue that it probably has to do a little bit with like how you promote yourself, how you market yourself. You know, do you have a good picture, good profile, all of that good stuff. So if anyone has tried out these sites, I would be very interested for your feedback on if you made a lot of money there, if you didn't make a lot, but it can absolutely be a good way to make money, especially when you're starting out and you're not making money anyways. These websites are also pretty easy to get into. Again, I'm going to speak to my experience like talking with all of them, but it was really easy to just like reach out, be like, hey, I want to learn more. I want to possibly be a psychic here. Like, what are your requirements? And almost all of the ones that I chatted with, it was a very easy vetting process. Like, it only required you to maybe chat with somebody or do like a 5-minute reading, short and easy, and then you could get approved. You might have to like fill out a lot of like questions ahead of time, but I think that's like the most time waster, I guess, time chunk that you time energy and time that you put into it. These psychic websites are also great for anonymity because you're not having to make social profiles or even make websites. You know, you don't even have to use your own like face if you don't want to. So if you're really uncomfortable with like who will see you doing this work, it's great for that because you can create a profile, keep it low key. Obviously people can find it, but they would really have to do some digging to find your face specifically. But a lot of people use stage names as well, and those stage names are great for anonymity. Another beautiful thing about these psychic marketplaces is that they handle all the payments for you, so that you're not having to deal with like, hey, send me money, hey, you know, do this, do that. Basically you just get like your monthly sum, I would assume, at the end of every month or beginning of every month. I don't know, maybe they have payouts more than that. But you would get that payout and it would all be taken care of. Like, I think they probably withhold tax and everything. So it's really easy. You don't have to deal with refunds. You don't have to deal with processing payments. Like right now I have to pay my website to be able to even take payments. I have to pay fees on all of those payments, and it is kind of like tedious to keep up with for sure. So those are some of the pros. Again, I would overall recommend it for beginners who need practice, who need a little bit of money, or maybe you're just nervous about putting yourself out there and you want to keep it a little bit more anonymous. Next, let's get into the cons. Now, to talk about the cons, I kind of have to talk about my experience with this. I have been reached out to many times by these groups to either be readers for them or to do like collaboration videos. And because I'm a psychic coach and I'm teaching people how to be psychic, it's super important for me to like push my students in the right direction, not in a direction that they're going to get taken advantage of or, you know, just anything that's bad. Like, I'm not going to give you bad advice. I'm going to give you the best advice that I can give you. So every time that I've talked with these people about, okay, cool, what's your vetting process? What does payments look like? Like, okay, we want to do a collaboration. Can I get to know a little bit more about your company? I either get answers, unfortunately, that I don't like, or I just get ghosted entirely. And every time I get these emails, I've known I'm going to make this video, so I ask further questions, so I kind of have something to show for this video. And as I walk through all the cons, I'll kind of show some of these emails. Now, as of this recording, if I find anybody that I really love in a psychic marketplace that I like champion, I will absolutely tell you guys. But I have a whole folder saved of interactions. I'm not going to like share anybody's name, but just to kind of give you like the idea of the energy that I get back from these types of groups. One of my biggest cons for these websites is like, what is the application process? What is the vetting process? It seems way too easy to get in. And not that that's a bad thing. Again, that can be a good thing for those starting out. But it seems like perusing every time that I look at profiles, it seems like just anybody can get on and call themselves a psychic. And a lot of these places, unfortunately, don't explain the criteria of how they accept psychics. So that to me says, shoot, are there people on here that are not psychic, but are just kind of like grifting or scammers, you know what I mean? That aren't actually trained. You know, what is their credibility? And I looked at some profiles and it was like their credibility was that their grandma was a psychic. Or, you know, I want to be able to see like where you learned, where you studied, how many years you've been doing this. And there was no requirement. Like people could just like write up bios about like anything. On some of these, not all of these websites. So with this email, I asked the people, like, do you look into credentials, like certifications? Like, I asked how they judged if someone was a good fit during the test reading. And all they had to say was that both myself, the person I was talking to, and their colleague have been reading for 30 years, and basically they're going to be the judges if you're a good psychic or not, which is very subjective, obviously. And they might be awesome. I don't know. But, you know, at the same time, what if they're not? Like, what if they kind of have a bias or a predisposition, or they want you to read a certain way? Like, I feel like that should be a little bit more clarified and not just like, oh, you got to trust us, who you've never met. Now this one, for like as far as the process, they had a pretty extensive questionnaire, which I really appreciated. They like asked for a lot of your credentials, your past learning, and then you were supposed to like submit a reading. So that feels a little bit better to me, but again, like there's no, like what I would really like to see is like a very clear, like these are the job requirements that we look for in psychics. Like this is the check marks that we like to hit. It's not just subjective. Now, for those of you getting a reading, this is pretty easy to avoid. All you got to do is just jump into the bio and see how transparent people are. See what their credentials are, how long that they've been learning. I have a good video about like red flags and how to like look out for several of these things that I did in the past. Another one of the cons that I see to these psychic marketplaces is that they can be a little bit predatory towards people wanting to get a reading because they charge by the minute. And it's very much like urgency culture. Like it's okay if you need a psychic right now, right this minute, because we got you. We got psychics right here, ready to pick up the phone. Now, again, that's great if you want a reading, but you as the reader, know what kind of people that's going to bring in. It's going to bring in people who want answers now, who want answers fast, who want it in the most minimal amount of time as possible so they can save as much money as possible. It's a little unfortunate that these websites kind of like promote that like emergency rushed order stuff because again, it makes it harder for you as the reader because you're getting people with a little bit more desperate energy, and it kind of incentivizes you to keep them happy so that they stay longer, pay for more, you get a better rating. It's almost like the money is what incentivizes you, not, the ability to like give a good reading. Because literally if somebody doesn't like you, they can just hop off and go pay their money to a different psychic. So it kind of makes me wonder how that works internally, if that incentivization like makes you do unethical things as the psychic, essentially. I also think with the price point and the nature of not having to search out like a psychic elsewhere, it kind of puts less skin in the game in the person who's receiving the reading. They're able to jump around and not really pay a lot of attention or time to the person that they're connecting with, which again, for those of you who are readers, that kind of makes it a little bit more difficult because they're like popping in to be like, give me what I want. And if you don't, I'm going to just go find somebody else. And I think this just comes from the point of like, when you do the research into all the psychics that are out there and you search somebody, like maybe you found me, maybe you have another psychic that you absolutely love. It's like your energy opens up more because you feel connected to them. They resonate with you, their energy resonates with you. So that makes it easier for them to read you. Another con, that's not all websites, but it's a good majority of them, is that they limit the amount of money that you can make. Again, if you're making no money, probably doesn't matter much to you. But if you're like me and I am kind of like, okay, you want me to come over here, but you want me to start at like $2 an hour, that doesn't make sense for me. And some websites I came across capped you, like you couldn't make any more than that. And some websites like made you do a certain number of hours before you could even move up to the next tier. Now this company with payments, they said that you get credits per minute that you read people, but you get to set your own rate there, which is kind of nice. But then when I did some further digging, they basically said you had to do 30 hours of like live streaming of like video content, like video calls, to get $600. That's about $20 an hour. Like you really have to do the math with these. It sounds like maybe a lot, but then when you actually look at, okay, what's the hourly pay and is that worth it to me? That's how you would kind of make that decision. So this one was pretty transparent about their payment system and how basically so many minutes you got bumped up to like a new tier. But unfortunately you had to start at 60 cents a minute. So that means for an hour reading, you're only getting $36, unfortunately. But again, when you're starting out, that might be good. Now, one of these companies actually has like a pretty good payment system, like set your own prices. They talked about how you could get 10 readings in a day, earning up to $500 a week. Again, that's assuming you get enough clients if people choose you, which I'm not exactly sure how that works. These business models, the point of these psychic websites is to employ as many people as possible so that they can give as many readings as possible. But they gotta get something out of it. They have to take a cut. So the lower that they pay you, or the the higher that they can charge for those readings, the more they can, take cut-wise. Now, again, there might be some companies that are really good and really ethical about this. And there's some people that really might care about connecting people to psychics. But there's some companies that I don't think that's the mission. I think the mission is to increase profits. And I'll talk to that at the end with one of the companies that I found that just like way surprised me. Another con to these websites is just thinking forward. If you decide to leave this company for any reason, you can't really take the clients with you because you're not allowed to like promote, hey, go get another reading from me over here. Your readings are with this company. So you could build up like a huge client base of people that come back to you, like regulars over there. But then let's say you decide to move on and you're like, I can be an awesome psychic and I can charge more and I'm going to do my own thing. Well, unfortunately, you can't take those clients with you. You can't tell them where you're at. I'm sure you could, but you might like be in breach of your contract if you do that. I'm not sure how that works. Maybe some places allow it. I don't know. And I've sort of already spoken to this last con, which is kind of like marketing and incentivizing people. Sure, your marketing is paid for, like you don't have to worry about it. But how, like, I want to know, how is it, like, if I want to be at the top of that website when your website pulls up, how do I know how to get there? And I'm pretty sure it's incentivized by like the more readings you get, the higher you'll get up there. And so again, that begs the question of like, what are people going to do? What are psychics going to do and say in order to get to the top, in order to get more readings, in order to get more money? And the reason why I say that is like, if you get a bad rating, then people are less likely to come to you. Like you get pushed lower in the search results. So I would say, wouldn't it suffice to say that it could make a really easy avenue to start people pleasing, saying what people want to hear? Your goal then becomes no longer to be right or to get psychic information accurately. It becomes, how do I make this person happy? How do I make them stay longer? How do I get to the top of the page? Now, I mean, I could easily argue this the other way just for like us, people who are not part of these like marketplaces. It is important to me to get good ratings. It is important for me to like make more money so that I can continue to do this. But it's not a competition within their search algorithm anymore. It's, just me and myself. And the way I like to promote myself is just by being the most genuine version of myself, instead of getting like sucked into the trap of like, oh, I need to compete against the other psychics or get the best ratings or people please. I'm very much like in my own lane, if that makes sense. So I think my point being is you could argue that this could happen as well, just being a standalone entrepreneur psychic. I think that just comes down to your intention and remembering to do it for the right good reasons. Now, I was really excited to get this email because this one was from a really, really big notable company. It's like one of the ones that almost always pops up, and they actually offered to do a video like collaboration with me, where at the beginning of my video I say, hey, if you want to see a psychic through this company, like use my link, get the discount, whatever. And I stress the importance. I kind of said, hey guys, it's really important to me that like if I'm supporting you, that I know that you're going to take good care of the people that I send to you. And they got back to me and were like, oh my gosh, we love that you're asking these questions. This is so important to us. And I got super excited because I was like, maybe finally I can get these questions answered and be able to push you guys to a good, reliable one that you could either get readings from or give readings at. And so then I sent all my questions very detailed, and I was like, here's all the things that I'm curious to know. And his response back was unfortunately just like throwing random nice words at me. Like it was kind of that, okay, our advisors go through several screening steps before being accepted, didn't really elaborate. I don't work directly in that department, so I don't know the stages of that process. In terms of advisor behavior and ethics, we have a highly responsive customer support team available to users. So that doesn't tell me anything about like how they treat ethics within, the psychics themselves. It just sounds like they prioritize the client, the person receiving the reading. Regarding payment structure, I'm not directly involved in that side of things. He also pushed me to their website, which was supposed to show how ethically it worked. But unfortunately, when I went to that website, no answers there. And I found out that this company is actually owned by an even bigger umbrella brand that actually owns several of these psychic marketplaces. And I got back to him and I said, unfortunately, that doesn't answer any of the questions that I have. Like, I would love to like either have you talk to your team, or if you want to give me their information, I could answer or ask those questions myself. And guess what happened? Ghosted. Like, I have yet to have a company, unfortunately, to like hit all these check marks for me. And it really hurts my heart too when psychics out there collaborate with these companies without asking these questions, because it's like, you know, we're promoting possibly unethical websites that could be taking advantage of the people that are getting readings or the psychics. So again, this is super important to me. If I find one, you'll know, but at the same time, I have a very high standard. So those are my cons for joining psychic marketplaces. So some of those things you can avoid, some of them you can't. Again, I think awareness is the most important thing. I will not fault you at all if you join these things. It's not for me. But I just want you to be like careful and cognizant as you jump in so that you can choose the best one that fits for you. And again, if there are any out there, like if you're watching and you work for these, please reach out to me. I would love for somebody to be transparent with me, and I would love to like be able to push people your way. I've saved so many emails and I've tried so many times, and you know, just the sheer fact that like I haven't had anybody be transparent with me and I get ghosted, like that to me is just a red flag in itself. So I'd love to see maybe a more independent group do this and do it well. Or if you need advice of like, hey, how do we ethically check the psychics we're hiring? I got you. I got you. Now this little section is a really quick note for sitters, people who are not psychics, but you're wanting to know which one to go to. My advice, use your intuition, trust your gut. Also look into people's profiles and see what their background is, what their credentials are. You usually want somebody who's at least studied under somebody or tried to get certifications. I think that that's always better than somebody who's just like book smart. Like anybody can pick up a book and not actually practice. But when somebody takes a course or is part of like a workshop or signs up for like a mentorship, I think that says a lot. Now, my personal opinion, I would encourage you to find psychics that are doing this on their own, because there's so many out there who could use the readings, who could use the reviews, and the majority of your money is going to go to them. It's going to help them pay for their bills, take care of their family. And I think personally for me, that's more important than paying a big company who's going to take a chunk of their profit. Also, energetically, when you feel called to somebody, it makes it so much easier for that psychic to read you. So I feel like if you're perusing around and you're like, oh my gosh, I love this person's message, you know, it just opens you up. It makes you more trusting of them. And it makes it so that they can read you a lot easier. And just another reminder to just look out for those red flags, because psychic marketplace or not, there's red flags that you'll see in people that work for themselves. There's red flags all over the board. And so being mindful of that is important so that, you know, you don't get taken advantage of. Again, psychic marketplace or not. And if you're learning how to be psychic and if you want to open up your own business and brand, just know I have a masterclass where I kind of talk about how do you get started? How do you get started marketing? Because I know it can be super intimidating. I share a lot of that, including like my income and my analytics over on Patreon, so that you can learn and grow and not feel like you're just like totally alone in this. I've learned and made a lot of mistakes over the years. And so hopefully I can kind of fast track you into like making more money and, you know, getting compensated for your work so you can set your own hours and like truly like have a business and a job that you just feel so in alignment with. But again, if you decide to join a marketplace, totally cool. Ask them questions, look out for those red flags, hold them accountable. And I think that's all you need to really do if you decide to go that route. So let me know if you have any questions, any experiences, again, whether psychics or readers. Very curious to be open to anything that I could be wrong about with these groups. any insight that you have around it for other psychics who are maybe considering joining, or if you have a marketplace that you just think is awesome that I haven't come across, please let me know. I would love to like get in touch with them. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this gave you some clarity and some direction, and I will see you in my next one. Alrighty, bye.